expert, Bruce DelValle. Good to have you on the program with us again. So the U.S. is appealing the ruling not to extradite Assange on grounds of his mental health. How likely is that to be overturned? Does the mental health argument have a lot of weight?
I think that the mental health argument has some problems, primarily because the judge did not seem to follow the law. What's at issue here is Section 21 of the 2003 Extradition Act, which is the law of England, and it asks a very simple question, which is the mental health of the person sought to be extradited such that they cannot resist the impulse to kill themselves if they were to be extradited? Now, the application of the Extradition Act is fairly clear in England. It's a very, very high standard. What has to be determined is A, the person is of a sufficient mental state that they are suicidal and that they cannot resist that impulse to kill themselves if they were to be extradited to the target country that is seeking extradition. It's a very, very high standard historically. What we have here is a problem with how the judge applied the psychiatric evidence. There was one psychiatrist presented by the defense who presented his report, and there were two presented by the United States. Now, the problem with the psychiatric report presented by the defense is it contained research and analysis brought by Julian Assange's girlfriend and the father of his the mother of his two children. This is a very biased report. The judge recognized it, but still gave it great weight. The United States is saying in their appeal that the report presented by the defense should be thrown out, that it wasn't competent. And if it wasn't thrown out, it should not have been given such great weight. So what we have here is the appeal is to the High Court. It's a two-judge court, and on it is Chief Judge Lord Ian Burnett, who is the oldest, the most senior of all judges in England. He's a very conservative judge. I believe he will certainly look very, very closely at the extradition law and these findings.
If Assange is extradited to the U.S., he could be charged under the Espionage Act. What is the Espionage Act, and what likely sentence would he potentially face?
Well, there are 17 counts under the Espionage Act and one count against them for misuse of a computer. The Espionage Act is basically for spying against the interests of the United States government and the military and ultimately its people. It's how the United States, how we go about convicting spies. The sentences that he's looking at are well over 100 years. What's interesting, again, about this is the United States has come forward and says, look, if he is convicted, we agree to send him to his native country of Australia to serve his prison sentence. They also have said that they would not use what's called SAMs, special administrative measures, such as keeping him confined, keeping him away from the other general prison population, and they will not send him to a supermax. So the United States is trying very hard to appease the British court. I might add something that perhaps the audience is not aware of. This is a continuation. How you feel about Julian Assange aside, this is a continuation of the Obama administration's horrible record in prosecuting journalists and whistleblowers. So I don't know that Julian Assange should be prosecuted in the United States. I don't know that he will be prosecuted in the United States. What's likely to happen if he is extradited, however, he will probably sit in prison for 5 to 10 years waiting for his trial. And I think that's what's waited for the lower English court. I do not think it will carry the day, however, with the High Court. Now, whoever loses is going to likely appeal to the Supreme Court of England for a final determination. And if it's determined that he's not extradited, Julian Assange will be free to go back to his home country of Australia. There's already a number of countries, notably of which is Mexico, that have offered him political asylum. And if he receives political asylum in Mexico, he will not be prosecuted. And there are a couple of prisoners out there, people out there, that the United States has tried to extradite and cannot. One of them is a woman that was convicted and sentenced to 30 years for having consensual sex with a 16-year-old boy. She is currently enjoying political asylum in Canada because Canada said that's too harsh of a penalty and it's not a crime to have consensual sex if you're 16 years old in Canada. There is also one of Assange's compatriots, Commander X, who is currently enjoying political immunity in Mexico as well. So that may be how this shakes out.
Okay, yeah, and Mexico actually doesn't sound too terrible. Bruce DelValle, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.